right. Hello. Welcome back. All right. Well, I was very excited last night because I got a comment from someone watching these that I don't know. Virgo Moon 77. Thank you so much. I need to get some engagement on this channel. And so far it's been doing the first part of my intention, which is just getting comfortable talking and letting ideas work themselves out. But Virgo Moon asked if I'd heard of the Barbary slave trade, and I have, and I've watched a few videos about it, read a few different articles, but nothing really too in depth. So he gave me a book to read called White Gold by Giles Milton. And so I'm really excited. I love those kinds of comments where you might tell me about any subject of interest and just lead me down those different paths of discovery. So thank you again, Virgo Moon. I very much appreciate it. I included some links in my description today for Fiona Edger's astrology. She's in Northern Ireland, and I sort of had a distant interest in astrology, but that's not something I've studied or made a huge part of my life at all. But I wanted to give you a link to her latest video where she explains a little bit about how there's these different cycles and we're in a pretty dark cycle, and it may not we may not get out of it in our lifetimes. It may last another 200 years. And so the task is for us to, learn and preserve and pass knowledge forward so that it might reach those generations. So I just thought that was an interesting concept, especially as I've discussed previously a little bit about how I've done some little bit of research into my own family history. And I just find it quite amazing that I live in the same city that my first, excuse me, my first relatives in Utah came to Murray, Utah in 1860. And I get to live in their town. And boy, I'm sure they wouldn't recognize it unless they were able to see the mountains. But I'm very humbled because, as far as I understand it, they were able to buy 50 acres of land and pass it on to their children, and through the generations, they were able to raise their families there. And then in the 70s, the land was sold, the family sold it off, and it was bought by Larry H. Miller to build his car dealership. And I just mentioned that because I worked for the Larry H. Miller company for over 20 years when the family owned the Utah Jazz. And my parents worked for the Utah Jazz when I was a kid as well. So I just find that to be an interesting connection. And, just thinking about 140 years ago was about 7 generations. So I just thought that was cool to note. And, I don't know that videos like this are going to be able to be preserved for that long down the road, or if any of my relatives would have any interest in it, but I think that they would. And that's why I'm doing these. And I'm doing them under the name of Kate Godina because that's my children's last name. I've been known as Kate Cook for almost my whole life. So that's another story. But I just wanted to give you that little bit of a note on where I hail from. And I just feel really fortunate to still be in this place. And a lot of my family is is buried at the Murray Cemetery just down the street from me. And I feel a real connection with this place. And uh, even last night, my husband was looking on Zillow. He went down the Zillow hole. I was teasing him, and I was just like, you know what? I'm not ready to move yet, And I feel like 20 years ago when I was in high school or just graduating high school, I felt like I wanted to get out of this place, and I sort of felt stuck here. But my feelings there have changed quite a lot, and I feel really lucky, very fortunate that I am here where I am now. So I'm doing everything I can do to to take care of my all my business, and I got a new gig um, with a company called Poop Scoop Utah, and it's going to be perfect for me because I get to start early before my husband even goes to work, maybe get half of my shift done before he even has to go to work. And then if I need baby care, my sister and I have been helping each other out a lot with watching each other's kids. So it should be really cool because I don't have to work weekends and I don't have to work late at night and I don't have to wait weeks, months to get paid. And I won't have my gigs get canceled on me. And I don't have to get a jabby jab just to work. And it's such a gross job for a lot of people that I always figured anyway in my career, I've always been willing to kind of do the grunt work that other people don't want to do. Um, because, yeah, I don't mind getting dirty, but I did my training today. It was pretty fun. Just because it was really short and it was cool and rainy. And that was actually nice because yesterday was freaking hot and disgusting. It was just awful. It was like a record uh, day for heat in Salt Lake, or it tied the record from 1918. So, anyway, I wanted you to check out in my description. I have a link to Fiona Edger. Also, I just discovered a guy named Benny Wills, and he seems really awesome. He was on the Mark Passio's show on Sunday, um, June 12th. Today is Monday, June 13th. And I really like Benny, so I wanted you to check him out. He in his interview with Mark, he had called himself an apocal optimist. So I love that. I'm going to steal that from him. I've always had many thoughts and tried to articulate them in different ways, and that one is perfect because, yeah, I'm just that. I have that duality, and I want to be prepared for the worst. Sometimes I can't handle it, and I've gone into those spaces where I'm trying to pretend like everything's okay. But I think what that behavior does is it just really buries a lot of the issues at hand that you have to confront in order to be able to heal. And, we feel shame when we can't do or we haven't done the things that we feel we're supposed to do. And so I find it a really interesting subject right now because we're we're stuck playing a lot of these games of strategy all the time, and we're actually conditioned not to be honest. So that's something I've been feeling that I need to be able to discuss like for years. It's been true for me. Why do I feel that I need to lie? Why do I need to feel like um, I just everything's okay, even when it's not. And I've really put myself into these positions over and over and over again in my life where I just can't deal with whatever it is. And I'm so glad to be coming out of that. It just feels amazing. I've really struggled the last uh, few years. I've had these ups and downs, but when Lucas had his accident, that just really rocked me. And finally, I'm getting to the point where I'm making a list of things that I need to do, and I'm able to make the phone calls, and I'm able to follow through with communications with different, you know, the lawyer, insurance agency, collections, billing agencies, all that. So it feels really good to think, yeah, I can do this. It's hard, but I'm the one putting a lot of the strain on myself. So that feels really good. And Benny Wills offers a course he calls Parhesia, and I'm very interested in that. I don't have the funds to get into it right now, but uh, I kind of wish I did because it sounds like it's just for me. Um, but I feel like I'm sort of working in parallel with what he's trying to do, and maybe mine is a really rough version. But yeah, I'll be getting myself prepared for when I am able to take that course in the future. In the meantime, I'm going to be checking out uh, his past content. He's got a lot. So he does a memes show, which is pretty funny and also sad. But um, just check it out. Let me know what you think. Um, I don't know. Oh, I posted two different links for videos that make commentary about AI, and one's kind of funny and one's really not funny. So please let me know your thoughts on those if you check them out. I titled my video Interesting Times. In the podcast I've been listening to, my regular podcast, a couple different episodes, different people have been mentioning this. The There's a story that it's an ancient Chinese curse that may you live in interesting times. And it's actually a curse because interesting means difficult, challenging, don't know what's going to happen next. So I looked into that just a little bit, and it seems like it's hard to find sources that actually link that to being said in anywhere in Asia or in China. It kind of came from different European, American like sources. So I don't know if that's really an ancient Chinese curse, or if there's something lost in translation. But I thought it was interesting that people were bringing that up, and so I wanted to talk about it a little bit. In going through my deep dives in history, I got kind of curious because my birthday's coming up. So there's always this on this day history. And I went way back and found out that the Magna Carta was signed on June 15th in the year 1215. And in American schools, I don't think we talk about the Magna Carta whatsoever. But I follow Simon Webb's channel called History Debunked. And the point isn't whether or not you agree with Simon Webb's take on anything. It's just that he's bringing to light these other sides of it, of a narrative that we're commonly sold on. And so history debunked. I mean, there's always another side everything. So I think that's what's important about when we think about history, when we think about anything. If it's something that just happened now, if it's something that happened last year or 2 years ago, or um, 800 years ago, I think it's interesting to re-examine those things. And to that point, I've mentioned Manny Grossman previously, and he totally revamped his online presence. He took his old channel down and he restarted it. And now he's looking into the truth in the true crime movement and going back and looking through old documents and trying to really parse out, you know, in particular with the Son of Sam, David Berkowitz situation. There's a book written by Maury Terry that everybody seems to take as canon for everything that went down. And so Manny's just examining this from his point of view. And what I find really interesting about his take is that he explains that when he first started, he was a real Maury Terry fan. And as he started to look into all these things more in depth on his own, and he even did interviews with people that that were sort of involved in that whole case, and he's changed his mind about some of the things that Maury Terry was saying about the Son of Sam case. So I don't think there's anything conspiratorial about actually asking questions. I think the problem becomes when we say, oh, this is absolutely not true, or this is absolutely true. We have to be very careful that we're not going into that space because we're being bombarded with a single narrative on anything that we may be discussing now. And we're not supposed to have discussion. We're supposed to take what we're told and just believe it. And if they come out 2 years later and say, oh, well, we didn't know this, we're sorry, we got it wrong, when people were getting silenced for even posing those questions as possibility, it becomes really dangerous, and this is my issue with, I always thought of myself as quite liberal and progressive because I thought that was the only way. I wanted to be loving. I wanted to be inclusive. I wanted to be understanding of others. And yet I think what happens is you have, well, I've heard it described as like the pendulum swinging, right? So to push back against something that is genuinely harmful, unfortunately, sometimes we swing way too far and become harmful ourselves. So I think, that's like the trap, is not to become that bully, which, we are trying to protect ourselves from. And this can go on, and I could go on forever about this. Give me 1 second. I want to grab I have this giant notepad. So I thought I would read you this poem. Well, just this thing I wrote the other night. I was listening to a podcast and this just came to my brain, and so I wrote it out really quick. They wanted to simultaneously give us a sense of hope and traumatize us with pure terror. The tools of censorship will harm people in ways beyond nuclear bombs. AKs and public shootings, drug overdose, medical malpractice, or starvation. Censorship steals our very ability to have a discussion. In this new era, the democracy dies on purpose in the darkness. We have been abused for generations, yet something is peeking through the cracks. Through culture, moral, character, art, beauty lives longer than, true culture, moral, character, art, beauty lives longer than individuals' human memory. Their facade of fake fuckery is cracking like paint on antique brick. We are that which remains, the stone, the source, and they don't understand how rich we are. With dirt on our feet, as savage as we are, we protect and love and dance and talk to the animals and plants, and you just don't even get it. You don't even see it. So we'll bury ourselves as the seeds and sprout again after you move on toward your next conquest. Then we shall burst forth with such vigor and might that suddenly we're the 50-foot ancient redwood tree, and the giants will return, and the fecundity of the land will be known by those who have both heart and eyes to see. These fakers and talkers will be these fakers and takers will be blown away to the winds while our deep roots anchor us to the glory of the Creator and that which is love. So I just scrawled that really quick while I was trying to take some other notes. And I don't know, it might need some editing, but that's just what came to my mind when I was thinking about just how insane everything is right now. So yeah, I don't think we need to be like trusting fact checkers or trusting narratives that we get. I think we need to check all the different sources. I think we need to do research and, keep our minds open to being wrong. I think that's okay, folks. Even the LGBTQ plus, whatever they are now, how the letters gang, however many variants of describing a humanoid there could possibly be. I mean, I've always been just about inclusivity, period. So, but even that community, it gets divided. I watched a podcast today where they were discussing bisexuality and that people in the gay community discount bisexuality and just say, yeah, you're just halfway to being fully gay. And so, yeah, there's this argument that bisexuality is not valid even in the gay community. So it just gets so confusing because I just want to be able to be like, yeah, I love you no matter what, So I'm struggling with all this just because as the daughter of a gay person, I like to think that I've been really open-minded and yeah, I mean, I have my prejudice and everything. It just gets ingrained in you. And so, yeah, there's things that you have to break out of. But, I just want my kids to be able to come to me so that we can have discussions. And, so I feel really grateful that I feel, even though my kids are still really young, they're able to be really open with me. And so I want to make sure I keep that space, no matter what. But one thing I just don't think I can abide is, medicalizing children. And so, unfortunately, there's just always going to be someone that may be hurt, no matter what any one of us says. So I certainly hope that it comes through, uh, just how much I care about an individual, and I'm more than willing to be wrong, but I don't want to get bullied either for my ignorance or anything like that. And I think that's where we all can do a lot of work on ourselves, is just um, maybe tread lightly, but I don't think we should avoid the difficult conversations either. I think that causes possibly more harm, because it's just like, oh yeah, 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 whatever. We accept you, yeah. I don't care. And I don't know. I don't know how that all comes through, but I'm going to keep working on this, because these things really matter to me. And I've always felt a connection to humans. I also think I've been trained to be scared of humans. And so I'm just working through all that. And I just appreciate uh, anyone that can bear to listen to this for this long, because it means that um, I must be communicating something that counts. You know? So I'm just really glad that I'm able to come to this space in my head, where I'm not scared to explain my ignorance. But I had mentioned the Magna Carta, and that was signed on my birthday 200 years ago, over 200 years ago. And in America, we don't study the Magna Carta, but in England they do. History Debunked, uh, Simon Webb, he has a he has a video about it, and I was going to go to bed last night, and I stayed up for like 2 more hours listening about some old history. So it just got me thinking, what Simon Webb says is that Magna Carta was basically written by the aristocracy for the aristocracy. So, I mean, we can't pretend like there's these old institutions that are still protecting us when they were created by the people that have all the power, the people that have all the money. It just reminds me of the World Economic Forum and the World Health Organization and all these people that they gather together, they're unelected, and they come together to, strategize about how to best control us all. And if you're not seeing that yet, then I will still be your friend, but I gently will grab your hand and encourage you to come along and just look into these things. I mean, let's just ask questions about them. That's We're still allowed to do that. They're making us fear that we can't have certain discussions, but we need to still have them. So that's really my great motivation right now, is like, if I don't stand up for myself now, when will I? If I don't teach my kids how to stand up for themselves, when will they learn? Um, and it's just such a crazy time. There's so many things that I'd love to be able to discuss with more, I guess, acuity. And so that's why I'm interested in learning some of the skills that Benny Wills um, would present in his Parhesia course. And just I just am so glad that I have the ability to do these live, because if I were just recording them, I wouldn't be uploading as many as I'm able to do this way. This really forces me to have some of these really difficult conversations with myself and remind myself of all of my various interests. And even if it's a little bit superficial and I'm not entirely getting it all right now, or I'm missing certain points, at least I'm trying to keep things in my awareness. And I wanted to show you two of the books that are on my bedside right now, which I think is probably like about to start a fire or something, these two books being together, but it's the Bible and Ayn Rand. And I just thought it was funny. I drew a little shitty cartoon of like the Bible and Ayn Rand, however you say her name, Ayn, whatever. And they have, the books had like eyes and they're like glaring at each other. I thought that was silly, but it's interesting because a lot of conservatives are into her. But she was from Russia. She wasn't into religion. So I think she's really misunderstood. And I got this book. I've had this copy of this book for over 20 years. My friend in high school told us about a scholarship, first prize for an essay contest, open to high school juniors and seniors, $10,000 cash reward. So that's why we all picked up this book. I never wrote the essay, but I did read the book, and I was the only one of my friends that got through it. And I figured, now I should have freaking submitted the essay, whatever I could have come up with, because I doubt there were very many high school kids reading this whole book and even trying to write an essay about it. So I don't know. That would be interesting to get in touch with them and see how many submissions they had that year that I graduated in 2002. But yeah, that was the year that that rocked our world before 2020. Was 2001, right? And I was a senior in high school, and I worked at American Express because I had a summer internship that I hadn't completed all the hours for. So by September, I was still having to work. And we were in economics class, and they pulled us out of class to go down the hallway to watch the news coverage for what had happened that morning. And so there was just one incident with a plane hitting a building, and then we watched the second one hit live. And to think, yeah, they dragged us out of class to go and watch that. That's just really impacted me my whole life, and I've since then. And that was just a really weird day. My job was at American Express, so after school I went to work, and we couldn't do anything. All the phones were shut down. Well, all outbound calls were shut down, and then inbound calls, we were taking all the inbound calls from the East Coast. And so I've never been able to forget about Building 7, because American Express was occupying a portion of that building. And then by the end of the day, they just controlled demolitioned it because it was on fire. So I've always thought that was freaking weird. And so I'm still going to be wondering about that the whole rest of my life, I'm sure. But I don't think it's conspiracy to ask a question, to ask about what happened, these weird moments in our history that just stick out. So I think it's important that we keep asking questions. We keep looking for answers. We're allowed to be wrong sometimes, but don't stop asking the questions. Don't stop trying to get to the truth. And I've been reading some Bible passages just to get some context for different things that other people propose to believe. I think that's really important. And I was kind of scared away from religion for a long time. I was quite bitter for many different reasons. But now I see that um, just like in learning another language, if you're going to go and travel, there might be just some things about the culture that you want to understand before you go there. Might be some words, even if you're not fluent in the language, there's some things that you want to be familiar with if you're traveling to a place. And so, me living in Utah, I have had a unique perspective being non Mormon, having generations of family raised here. And it's quite unusual that the ties from the church here um, would be broken from my grandmother promised my grandpa and his pastor at the Lutheran church that she wouldn't raise their kids Mormon. And I may have mentioned this before. I think it messed up my uncles and my mom a little bit, but I thought that was pretty progressive for them back then to be able to sustain a marriage of 50 years um, despite those differences. And I know there's folks struggling with those things now. And I've always felt very fortunate to have not been raised in that culture, because I watch a lot of the different um, versions of like ex-Mormon podcasts, and some of them, they go to head with each other. There's always points of disagreement within a small group. Um, they continue to to have differences of opinions. It's like the garden groups. Oh my goodness, the garden groups. I never knew the gardening could be so controversial. But yeah, any subject is going to have its like factions, and there's always going to be people that say, yeah, you know, plant poison is it's a tool in your toolkit. Um but yeah, I mean, people really suffer some devastating consequences when that stuff drifts. And I just read about a farm that was certified organic that has to lose their certification for 3 years because of drift from a neighbor. So that's that to me is the part that is concerning, is when we say, okay, yeah, these tools are at your disposal, but when they're really easy to access, yeah, we can't always control how they're going to be used, and that can be devastating to others. And so we can't just stop about and blame, one tool for the problem. It's really that there's people that um, don't pay attention to labels and proper usage. There's people that don't care about how it affects their neighbors and all that. So I just want to make sure I'm keeping my mind open. And my mom and my stepdad, they're Christian, and so I want to have an understanding for where they're coming from. I want to be able to speak their language. I want to be able to reference um, passages from the Bible, at least understand them when I may hear somebody else talking about them. So I've been flipping through my Bible a little bit. I'm going to start reading the Fountainhead again, because I know I wasn't that mature to have gotten the big picture when I was 17, but now I'm 37, so maybe some of my life experiences and understandings will help me to see this through a different lens. And again, I get so frustrated when people are like, oh, you're reading that, you must think blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, no, I mean, we should all be allowed to read different things. And that's just bothers me that like you have to sign up for a school of thought before you've ever even read the book. You know, people are going to criticize you for what you're trying to understand more about. And to me, that's just ridiculous. So that's why I watch so many different points of view, and why I'm on this exploration of just discovery. So I'm really excited that I've got people trying to engage with some comments. So please let me know what you've been reading, what you're watching, what you're thinking. Um, Thank you so much for going along with this. I'm going to be taking it easy on my birthday, but I have uh, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. I have a bunch of people's houses to visit and clean up for them. So I'm really excited about where I'm at right now. I feel very fortunate, and I'm going to be posting links to my Cash App and my Venmo because I'm not going to be afraid to ask if you want to offer some support. Please do. You can help me buy a book. You can help me buy my kid a new set of strings on her shitty little guitar she just got. But she just recorded a video on her tablet that she didn't point the camera at her. She she wrote a piece of paper that said, "I'm trying." No smiling, giggling, and she played a really funky tune on her little kitty guitar that was her cousin's that had been sitting in the attic at grandma's for 10 years. So her 5-string mini shitty guitar, she made a pretty cool little ditty out of it. And even though she didn't show the camera on her, she just recorded the audio. And it was awesome. Of course, I'm going to be smiling because it's freaking adorable. And I'm just so glad she's conquering her fear. You know, she gets embarrassed to perform, but she still wants to share what she's trying to do. So I think that's exactly why I'm doing this. I want to make myself vulnerable because I don't see that there's another alternative. There's no other way we're going to save our kids is if we don't learn how to be authentic ourselves. And it's not about coloring ourselves up in glitter and rainbows, you know, and pretending that like whatever, you know, that we've always been oppressed as individuals. Society's always been oppressing, you know, religion, culture, community. It's always been a battle, you know, but we have to participate in it. We can't run. You know, you can't escape all your problems. Like, yeah, I can see where if you have like really terrible neighbors and they're not going to let up, like somehow you've become a target and they're just not going to let up. Like I can see that there's some great sense in like leaving the situation, just saying, okay, like we can't even deal with this. But I mean, sometimes I wonder if you run away from that one scenario, is it going to follow you to the next scenario? You know, is there something that you're not doing? And I don't want to victim blame here. Like, I think there's severely damaged people that do find targets and they just relentlessly um, go after them. And so I'm trying to figure out, like, yeah, how do I have the most honest experience with myself and the world so that I can be sure that if I'm running or if I'm choosing to walk away from a situation, like, that I did everything I could, and that's now the only option left, but otherwise I'm gonna do my best to stay and to fight and, at least stand up for myself. And I think you can do that with some tact and some grace, like my conversations with, my neighbors about how they had a problem with me trimming my hedge on my property that they planted right on the property line. So it now encroaches on my yard a foot every year. It just keeps getting wider and wider and wider. And they've got driveway next to their property line. And I have ground. So of course the hedge, it's going to continue to encroach on my property. And they got super mad that I started to make efforts to hack it down. And not for complete removal or eradication, but the poor hedge had just dead branches in the middle of it. And, in order to reinvigorate the plant, it required some serious hacking. And yeah, it looked pretty ugly. But now I'm starting to plant plants and I'm trying to make it look cute. And I've tried to be kind to that neighbor despite her old daughter yelling at me. It's like I still shovel her driveway if I notice her family's ignored it or, whatever. I try and be kind, even though there's been a battle there. So, yeah, I think I've been intimidated by my neighbors, but I've been learning how to be tough and just acknowledge it and not be without fear. I'm still nervous. It still makes me uncomfortable to think about the people that are criticizing me. But I'm coming to a place of like, not that I don't give a fuck, but I'm able to be like, my last video, fuck that shit. I'm going to be me. I'm going to do my best. And so I hope these messages come across in a positive way. Overall, I'm feeling really good. I'm going to be getting up early as I can to beat the heat and get myself trained for getting up early and just getting my gigs done. And then I won't have to be so reliant on baby care, which would, uh, you know, cost almost as much as what I'm making. So that's the great struggle. And if you're in that struggle, I feel ya. And I've been very privileged myself. I haven't had it as tough as some. I've had so much support in my family. I've had so many great friends. And part of me just needed to pull my head out of my ass a little bit and see that I had that support the whole time. I just needed to learn how to ask for the help. So, if you like these videos, please like and tell your friends. And if you want to support what me and my little family have going on, you can send me tons of your money to my Venmo and my Cash App, or not. Just you commenting, just you watching, that means everything. And I thank you for helping me get comfortable being uncomfortable. Love you.